Hello folks and welcome back to the show, and we have been 3 months in 2020 and we have already seen a virus, we have seen a bank failing, and last week has been terrible. I hope you all are doing fine because last week we saw Sensex falling by 3000 points, and then we saw Nifty falling by 30%, and we had to halt the trade for around 45 minutes. That was really terrible, and then there are job losses. Now why this Nifty falling is really terrible, because we have seen fall in past, in 2008 and 2002. But what is different this time is that, this fall came in just 40 trading sessions, that is in less than 2 months. So that is very serious. And after that, we are seeing so many job losses. So that is the thing. Hope we just sail through this. And I have a very important update for you. I am just planning a small social meet by end of this March, and hope you can just come and join. If you are interested, you can just DM me. What we will be actually doing is we will be sharing a lot of ideas towards brand building, or or startups, and how to actually create a ecosystem where we can actually help each other. So if you are interested, just DM, and yeah, let's start with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
So yeah, what we are doing today. So if you are following me on Instagram, I ran a poll and I wanted to know what kind of content should I produce. And the most voted for was number 1, personal finance, and the number 2 was the stock market. So yeah, this episode is especially for people who want to know about personal finance and people who want to invest in stock market, because there is a reason why we want to understand finance, and we want to understand how to invest in the stock market. And of all those reasons, I have just there is one major reason that we invest, and we are going to discuss that. So let's start with the first discussion. Suppose I give you $1,000 and I ask you to go and buy some groceries. So what will happen is you will go to the market and you will just search for items that you could buy for $1,000, and you will bring that. Now if I give you that $1,000 after 10 years, and I will tell you to buy the same amount of groceries and bring them to me, then will you be able to actually do that? The answer will be actually no. Why? Because number 1, things get expensive, and that is the major reason why we want to invest. So number 1, why are we investing? To retain our purchasing power. What happens is, as and when things get expensive, we actually start to decrease our purchasing power. So what will happen is, the 100 rupees that we spend today will buy less stuff in the future. So why we are investing, or we are learning finance, is because we can understand how to preserve that purchasing power. So in the future, we can use that 100 rupees to actually buy stuff that is equally valuable to the 100 rupees that we have today. So now, number 1 thing, if you are listening to me on any of the podcast platforms, then you could not see the diagram that I will be showing. So I will request you to switch to the YouTube channel that I have, so you can see the illustration that I have, because today I have a lot of illustration to help you understand the power, how inflation actually affects our purchasing power. Now on your screens right now, you have 3 cards. One card is from 1988, the another one is from 2008, and the last one is from 2018. Alright, so if you look at the screen right now, you see these 3 cards, and the quantity on each of these cards is different. On card 1, you could see that the card is actually entirely full. On the second card, you will see that it is half full, and on the third card is you can say it's not full at all. So what happens here is, number 1, in 1988, the 1000 value of that 1000 was really high, so you could buy actually a lot of stuff because the inflation was really low. And in 2008, what happened was, things got expensive, and now you could buy less stuff with the same amount. And then in 2018, the inflation was quite high, so you could not buy even half of the things that you have in the cart. So this is the first reason that we have to invest, because we want to retain our purchasing power. Now, what is the purchasing power? Suppose we have 1000 today and we want that 1000 after 10 years. Then if we keep this 1000 in our pocket and we just after 10 years we take out that note and we think that it is 1000, it is actually really wrong, because that 1000 is not same as the 1000 in coming 10 years. How? Let me show you another example. Now see this one. This is rupees 10,000 after different years at different rate of inflation. So inflation rate is 2%, then it is 3%, then it's 4%, then 4.5, 5 and 6. And like that we have years, that is after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years, and so on, like up to 30 years. So what you see first is, if you have like 10,000 today, then at 2% inflation rate, after 5 years that 10,000 will be valued at 9,000. After 10 years that 10,000 will become 8,000, and after 20 years, 25 years or 30 years, it will just go half and become 5,500. So this is the decrease in our purchasing power. The 10,000 we have today will actually be able to buy only stuff that is worth 5,000 after 30 years. So that is why we actually invest, so that we can retain our purchasing power. And one thing you have to note is that I'm considering only 2% inflation. Actually in real market inflation is around 7% or even higher. So right now we have illustration for 6%, which we will right now see. So suppose we have 10,000, so after 5 years at 6% inflation, that 10,000 will be valued at 7,500 or 400. Alright. So after that, after 10 years, it will be valued at 5,500, and so on. If you go by 30 years, it will be valued only for 1,700. So the 10,000 we had 10 years ago or 30 years ago is now, after 30 years, is valuable only up to 1,000. So that is the problem. That is the reason why we have to actually invest in the stock market. Now understand this. When people like us, the people who belong to the middle class group, have to preserve money so that we can buy things from in the future. So suppose we what we do is we just go to a bank and we save that money. Suppose I have 10,000 right now, and I go to a bank and I preserve. Suppose I preserve it in a bank called SBI, and it is giving my 3.5% of return. So what will actually happen is, after 1 year, I will get 3.5% on this 10,000, but the inflation rate is 7%. So I earned 10%, but I gave away 7%. So in reality, the actual return that I am getting is around 4%. That is minus 4%. So even instead of gaining 3.5%, what I am getting is minus 4%. This is the real reason why we have to invest, and we have to preserve our purchasing power. Now people who are rich, like Ambanis and Adanis, they don't have to actually preserve money, because they have so much of money that even after if they stop earning, they will their coming generations will actually could feed themselves 3 meals easily. So this is one thing that I wanted to discuss, that is, this is called the negative return, or this is called the real return. This is the real return that we get. So whenever you calculate your return, suppose you make an investment and you get 5%, 6%, 15%, that is not the real return. The real return is after you deduct the inflation. So first deduct the inflation, then the return that you get is the real return, and that is the return that you are making. So investing in a bank and getting a 3 or 4% interest actually is eroding your money. So that is very important. After that, I have a very small example which shows how a management course fees is increasing at 7% inflation rate. And actually after 15 years, that is the course that it cost 15 lakh today, after 15 years that will cost 41 lakh. So this is another example of how expensive education is getting. Now if you ask me if should I get an MBA, if you want to learn how to make PowerPoint presentations, you can go for MBA, but that is not really important, because recently Amazon and Tesla, they both have clearly mentioned that they are not actually hiring people from the campuses. They are actually hiring people who can get the job done. So if you are a freelancer or person who have a good portfolio, you can actually apply in this company, and you will earn a very good salary when you are freelancing. So yeah, these two are the most important examples that I wanted to discuss. So this is how things are getting expensive every day. Now when we go below, we see some common expenses that we always have to incur in our daily life. So suppose we want to buy a house today, and that house is currently priced as 30 lakhs. Then after suppose 15 years, and then after 20 years, I have designed a charge for 15 years and then for 20 years. So suppose you want to buy a house today for 30 lakhs, and that house is will get expensive because of the inflation, and so after 15 years it will get its price will be around 82 lakhs, and after 21 years that 30 lakhs house will be worth 1.16 crore. So this is how expensive buying house will get in 20 years. After that, when I talk about the most important expenses of every Indian parent, that is the education. The education is getting expensive every day, and if I talk about normal education, it is worth around 15 lakh today, and if you go for 15 years it will be get expensive up to 41 lakhs, and if I talk about 20 years it is around 58 lakhs. So this is how the expense for actually your child education is getting how expensive your child education is getting. After that, if I talk about Indian marriages, right now people spend around 2 lakhs on marriages. I'm talking about the basic low level marriages where you don't spend much. This is a really low limit, because Indian marriages, they are known for spending around 20 to 30 lakhs. I'm taking a very small example of 2 lakhs. So if you are spending 2 lakhs today, after 15 years that 2 lakhs will be actually equal to 5 lakhs, and after 20 years that will be equal to 7 lakh 73,000. So this is what inflation looks like, and if you are not investing, then it is so difficult to provide for the future expenses when your income is not increasing with the same rate as inflation. Okay, so the next thing that I want to discuss with you is the real return. Now we have a confusion, that is, suppose we make an investment and we get 7%, 8%, or suppose 4%, 15, 20%. We think that 20% is our actual return. But what happens is we always forget that we have to subtract the inflation that we are suffering. Suppose I am getting a 12% return and I am suffering an inflation of 7%. So you have to actually subtract that 12 from 7 to actually get actual return or real return of 5%. So that is one thing that we don't consider much, and we don't talk about much. We always say that I have earned 15% for this past 10 years, past 6 years, but we forget that we have to subtract the inflation. And when we subtract the inflation, we actually get the real return. So next time when somebody comes and tells you that I am earning 15%, 20% return, so just ask them if this is their real return, and if you calculate, their real return will be much lower. So yeah, this is first thing. So next I want to show you this chart of how low the real return is. So if you see, we have inflation of 2%, 3%, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then the next thing that we have is the stated returns in percentage, that is how much return we are getting from the market. Suppose I am getting 5% return from an investment and I am suffering 2% inflation. So what will happen is, alright, so suppose I am earning 5% return from the market, I am suffering 2% of inflation. My real return will be 5 minus 2, that is 3%, which you could actually see. So the next thing is, suppose I am suffering the highest inflation, that is 7%, which is the actual inflation that we suffer, and we invest our money in a bank account, that is, suppose we go and invest in our money in state bank or some government bank. What will happen is we will get a return of around 4 to 5%. Now what will happen is, actually if you see, we are getting after a year, what we will get is a return of 5%, but in real it is a return of minus 2%. That is, we are actually not gaining money, but we are actually losing 2% on our savings. So that is very important that we should understand. And after that, we have a return of 20%. Suppose I invest in a very good stock and I get a 20% return after a year, and I suffer 10% inflation, my real return will be 30%. So this is something that you have to practice. You have to tell others that don't calculate your return only on what you see. You have to actually subtract the inflation and you have to calculate your real return. So this is something that you should discuss among people who are investing alongside you, or people who want to know about investing. The next thing that I want to discuss is the art of making your money work. Now what we have been taught from our childhood is that we have to we have limited money, so we have to live a life which is full of sacrifices and full of compromise. But we are never taught how to make money and actually fulfill our dreams. Now what happens is, since they have never been taught, they could not teach us, and that is the reason why we are suffering. So we don't know the art of making a money work. So this diagram will show you the rich people, that is how the people who are have actually made their money work. So in first example you will see the poor and the middle class. That is, in this example you are seeing a man whose income is only from salary. Number one, never have a single income source. Always try to have a multiple income source. That I will discuss in future videos, that how you can have actually 2 or 3 income sources. So that is one thing that I will discuss in the future. So right now we have this young man who only has one source of income, that is his salary. Now what happens is, whenever his salary comes, he first pays his rent, then he pays his electricity bill, then he pays his loans, and then he actually does not have much left with him to invest. And that is the problem with all the people who are in the middle class. Their first priority is to pay others. Instead of paying others, we have to learn how we should pay ourselves first. We pay the electricity guy, we pay the plumber, we pay the landlord, but we fail to understand that we forget to pay ourselves, and we have to learn that. If you look at the rich guy, he has invested in stocks, he have invested in bonds, he have invested in real estate. So now what he will do is, he will actually wait till this returns from these investments come. So whenever his rental income comes, or his bond incomes interest comes, or his stock generates some dividend income, what will happen is, his real income, that is the income, will include the dividend income, the rental income, and the interest, and in total he will earn from 3 different sources. And now he will actually pay the rent, electricity, and other taxes and loan. And this is the real reason why they are actually able to preserve wealth, because they know how to first invest in assets, generate money from the asset, and then pay others. So by investing in asset, they are actually paying themselves first. So whenever they earn 100 rupees, they first pay themselves, and then they are paying the electricity guy or the landlord, all the other outsiders. So this is something that we have to learn. Even I am practicing this from past 1.5 years. I have been successful to some limits, but I am still training a lot. So I am still working on this, and this will take time, because this is a habit thing. This is we don't have a habit of paying ourselves first, and to develop that it will take a year or year and a half. So yeah, it's all about the discipline. People with higher discipline may do it in the shorter time. So this is something we have to learn. So before I end this video, this is the last thing that I wanted to discuss, that is, I wanted to show you the power of compounding. Now what always happens is that we always want fast money, but we forget that good businesses are money making machines, but they need something, that is time. And when they get time and they get good business involvement, they will multiply your money to a great extent. But thing is that we run for fast money, and we don't focus on the power of compounding. Now to explain this power of compounding, I want to give you an example. And if you look at your screens, you see actually 2 people, that is Sheila, and the second one is Munni, and they both are actually investing 10,000 and they are getting a return of 7%, and the time period that they are investing is up till the age of 60. That is, whenever they reach the age of 60, they will withdraw their investment. And the next thing that you want to see is the age. That is, Sheila is 25 years old and Munni is 35 years old. So Munni is starting 10 years late from Sheila. And what will happen if she actually does that? Then this is the actual result. So what will happen is, after 35 years, that is when they actually turn 60, what will happen is, Sheila will have around 1,06,000 rupees, and Munni on the other hand will only have 54,000. So that 10,000 grew up for Sheila, it grew up to 1,06,000, and for Munni it actually grew for only 54,000. Now why is this happening? Because in first 10 years Munni has not invested at all, and that is when actually Sheila gained around 9 to 10,000 rupees. So when Sheila invested 10,000, in 10 years she actually gained 10,000 on that investment, and that is where Munni is losing. And after that, for the coming years, Sheila is getting a return on 19,600, but Munni is actually starting from 10,000. So that is why she is getting a return on actually 10,000 only. And this is the reason why they are having at least a 50% difference in that portfolio. if you see Munni is short by 50,000 and Sheila is actually gaining 1,06,000, which is 50,000 or 56,000 more than her. So this is something that I wanted to tell you, that you have to believe in the power of compounding. You have to give time to your investment, and if you want to go short term, there are more chances that you will lose money. So this is what I wanted to discuss. Hope you like the video, and if you like the content, do share this with as many people as you can. And this is it from my side. This is Sumit, and this is my show, Sumit Talks, and I am signing off.